What's up, guys? It's August 22nd and it's 3 o'clock. That means it's time for the whatiship.tv Dota Daily. It's going to be number 4. Pretty soon I'm going to run out of fingers for these. And today we're going to be concentrating on talking about all the different items that are suggested, and some of the ones that aren't, for heroes that we talked about in Dota Daily number 1, which are for newer players. So we're going to be talking about those heroes which are pretty easy to play, and the ones that you're probably going to want to play if you're a new player. So, brief summary. Heroes we're going to be talking about, it's going to be Lich, Tidehunter, Skeleton King, Lycanthrope, Dragon Knight, and Venomancer. And there's going to be a couple other things we're going to talk about as well. But for now, let's hop straight into the game. So the first thing we're going to talk about is sources of money that are going to let you buy these items. So there's a couple large sources of money, and yet again, just got to change this up. There's a couple large sources of money, which we have talked about. For instance, getting creep kills, so those are the little guys that are fighting, as well as getting last hits on heroes and towers. And if a tower dies, obviously your entire team gets money. Roshan is another sort of money. It's the same as getting a tower. And the only other one we haven't really touched on is these in-base buildings. Let's look at the ones we actually can see. I'm going to unpause this to get the nice screen back. So these guys right here, your barracks, control the creeps that spawn out of here. Or actually, out of the opponent one. So if these get knocked down, then your opponent will start spawning stronger creeps out of this mid lane. Alternatively, if this one falls, stronger creeps out of this one. You can see the ones that are parallel. If it's the melee racks that dies, it's the melee creeps that get stronger. If the range racks goes down, it's the range creeps that get stronger, and both of them go down. Obviously, both camps are going to be stronger. These are called mega creeps. So let's take a little look-see around at our wonderful hero for today. For the first part is going to be... Oh, sorry, there's one other thing I meant to say. Only the people that get the last hit on these get the money. Same with these. These used to be called moonwells. Now they're just buildings. So let's go back to our hero for now, which is going to be Lich. And we're just going to talk about some of his items, the advantages of them, what they do, and then maybe some that are not included in here that you might think about getting. Starting items, we're going to avoid these. We've already talked about these a bunch in a couple of our different episodes, the consumables and the courier. Now we're going to pop over to the early game. We've already talked about Boots of Speed. Now let's talk about the Magic Stick. This is an item which is really good on almost every single hero. The reason for that is because basically it gives you a slight burst of health and mana. So the way it works is if someone casts a spell around you, enemies only, it builds up a charge, okay? And a magic stick can hold 10 charges. So the resource per charge is 15. That means if you're full up and you use it, you're going to get 150 health and 150 mana immediately. The advantage of this, obviously, let's say you're running away from a team fight. This is the most common use for a magic stick. You're running away from a team fight, and you realize that the projectile or whatever's coming at you is going to kill you if it hits you. So you can pop that magic stick or that magic wand if you upgrade it. This is the upgraded version right here. And it will restore all of that instantly, perhaps letting you live through that last hit. And if your enemy was being a little bit lazy, they might not be following you, so you might be able to get away. It's a pretty good way to live through the ends of fights. Magic Wand, it does the same thing, except it can hold 15 charges, and it also gives +3 attributes as it's made up of 3 iron branches, a magic stick, and the recipe. Another recommended item here for Lich is going to be a Bracer. This is an item that just pretty much, the main purpose is to give you extra health. You can see it gives you extra stats, +6 strength, +3 agility, +3 intelligence, and +3 damage. So with that +6 strength, it's going to give you 19 times 6, so that's a little under, it's about 114 health. By buying this item, you get 114 health. Obviously, taking a look at Lich, his starting health is rather low compared to other heroes, so you're filling in the gaps by purchasing a Bracer. Tranquil Boots is an item which gives you 170 HP every time you use it. This is a little bit of a confusing item. So when you're just walking around and you have money, or you haven't been hit, sorry, not you have money, and you haven't been hit, it gives you plus 80 movement speed, plus 3 armor, and plus 3 HP regeneration. But if you take damage 4 times from any sources in 10 seconds, they just become Boots of Speed, these basic guys right here, and it also makes it so you can't use that active. That's the heal, that's 170 HP. And they have a 40-second cooldown to cost a teeny bit of mana. The reason that this item is so good on Lich is because he already has a mana regen in Sacrifice. So by having the mana regen and health regen, he's very self-sustaining in lane. A Mechanism is an item which is almost completely dedicated to supporting your team. With it, with the active, you get 250 HP and plus 2 armor and a radius around you. It's a pretty big radius, probably about the size of the fountain. And the passive also gives you plus 5 armor and 4 bonus HP regen in the area. Also some stats. So this is an item that you're going to want that you pop in the middle of team fights to keep heroes alive and things like that. Observer Ward. That's something we're going to talk about a bit more in depth a little bit later, but an Observer Ward gives vision. At the end of this episode, we're going to talk about wards a little bit. Boots of Travel. This is not really a common item on Lich. It's more for the later parts of the game. It's to make sure you're at all of the fights that your team is in. This is not a must-have at the beginning. The Tranquil Boots are good, but in the later parts of the game, they do not scale that well, so it's sometimes worth it to pick up Boots of Travel if you have a lot of money. By scaling, I mean becomes less good the later you go into the game. Sith Vice is an item which gives pretty strong stats. You can see plus 10 strength, plus 10 agility, plus 35 intelligence, and a ton of mana regen. But the big thing about this item is the active has a hex, which basically means that it turns a hero into, or any unit, doesn't have to be a hero, but hopefully a hero, turns them into a sheep for 3.5 seconds, which takes away all of their passives and makes it so you can nuke them down very easily. Shiv's Guard is an item which is just for extra damage, extra armor. It gives you a ton of armor, plus 15. So this is an item you would get if you're getting right-click down extremely quickly, and you also want to contribute a bit more to team fights by slowing enemies and doing damage. So it gives you intelligence, a ton of armor, and it also has an aura slow with the active that also does, or the aura slow, sorry, that's not the active. An aura is an ability that happens all the time whenever you have the item to the people around you. The active is a 200 damage nuke, as well as a movement slow. Do I have cheats on so I can buy this item? It's really cool.
Your middle tower is
oh, I do.
Attack.
Okay, so we're going to buy Boots of Travel. Look how smart I am. And we need to go over to the side shop right quick. The secret shop, rather. To finish this item up. So let's just zoom over there so I can just show you what this item looks like. It's very cool. It's a little bit hard to explain. So we've got our Shiva's Guard.
It's just the frost of doing
now let's run over here to this creep camp.
Going.
And ready? I'm going to turn it on. See, it does 200 damage as well. And then this area is now slowed as well. So that's that item. Another item on here is going to be the Aghanim Scepter, and that just increases the damage and casting range of his ultimate, which is that Chain Frost that bounces around, which we've talked about previously. Now we're going to jump on to the next hero. And we're going to be talking about Tidehunter next. And Tidehunter is a tanky initiator. That means that his goal is to get in the middle of the fights and use his abilities to disrupt the enemy. And another thing I want to talk about really quick is this screen right here. This is the suggested item screen. And this is the default that Valve loads. But if you click this little guy right here, you can see that you can add things in. So let's say I wanted to make a Mjolnir situational item. You can add that right in there. Click the check, save it. Regs, Tidehunter. Build saved. And now we're in Greg's Tidehunter build, and we can also go back to the default item build if we wanted to. So this is a pretty cool way to store items that store item sets that you see off. Oh god, overlay off. Sorry, this is a little tick mark right here, and then let's say you wanted to add this on here, and then you hit this button. Greg's other build, build saved, and then you have this here. And you have these builds, and it's a nice way to save builds you get off of websites like DotA Fire, Play Dota, things like that. So that's a nice way to keep track of them. You can also name them and stuff, make different builds for different ways to play heroes. Something we'll talk about in probably sometime during next week is there's a lot of different ways to play most of the heroes. So you might want to have a build for each of those different kinds. Let's dive into his items again. We have the same Magic Stick, Boots of Speed, and Bracer. We already talked about these. The Bracer, again, just for that extra health. Tidehunter already has a decent amount of health, especially compared to a hero like Lich. He's got almost 100 more. But the nature of Tidehunter is that he wades right into the middle of the fight, so you're going to want to have that extra health. Another item for him is Arcane Boots, and this is an item made of an energy booster, which gives you plus 250 mana, and then normal boots. And then it has an active, which is restoring mana in an area, not just on yourself, in an area around the hero. And it costs 25 mana, but then it gives you 135 total, so it's a plus 115 for you, plus 135 for everyone else. Very strong support item, and it's really good on heroes that are highly mana dependent, that don't have a lot of mana in the early game. Sand King is another hero that occasionally gets it if he's playing a little bit more supporty, but Tidehunter is a really great example. Blink Dagger. This is a great item. I'm just giving myself some gold here so we can purchase it. And a Blink Dagger lets you basically just blink to a target. See? In an area, it's 1,200 units. Up to 1,200 units away. And something to know about this item is that it will go a little bit further if you actually click at the edge of its range. If you click past it, it will go a little bit less. So before, we were like here. Let's see if we can go here. See? A little bit further. Forward. So you're going to want to get used to 1,200 units. And that'll be very helpful for you. You can see the advantage of this item is basically to get you in the middle of that fight and then to use Ravage, which is that 2-second stun as well as the damage nuke and a huge radius around you. Now let's head into his situational items. And situational items are just that, extremely situational. Sometimes it will not make any sense to get these items. Other times it'll make a lot of sense. Heart of Tarask is basically just an item for making him more of a tank. Basically that item which makes it easier for him to walk into the fight and walk out after using Ravage without dying. It has a huge health regeneration, 2% per second if you haven't been damaged in the last 4 seconds. Also gives you 40 strength and 300 health. So together, 40 strength is, 40 times 20 is about 800. We'll round it to 800. It's less than that. It's like 750 plus 300. So almost 1,000 health just from this one item. It's extremely strong for someone who you're trying to get bigger. Radiance is an extremely situational pick on Tidehunter if you're getting unbelievably good farm. It gives you plus damage, and it also gives a burn in the area around you for 40 damage a second. And you can turn the burn on or off. But again, this is not an item that you're going to get most of the time, or really, you'll probably get it pretty rarely, because there's going to be other items you're going to want to get instead. Dota is really a game about picking the best option. There's good options, and then there's the best option. If you don't pick the best option, occasionally you'll just lose. But Radiance is an item option on him if you're getting a ton of farm and you're playing maybe more of a carry role with Tidehunter. It's unlikely, but it does happen. Shiva's Guard, we've already talked about that, and it makes a lot of sense with this hero. You can imagine that if you blink into the middle of this fight, you pop your Ravage, and you use this right after, or like a second later, they're going to be slowed even after you stun them, while also taking more damage. Assault Cuirass is another item which helps him in a couple ways. The first one gives him attack speed, which is always helpful. It also gives him armor. That means that he can get into these fights and take more damage from right click with plus 10 armor. It's a pretty significant amount, and it lets him stand in the middle of the fight a little bit longer without having to worry about too much. Also gives aura attack speed for everyone around you, bonus armor for everyone around you, and armor reduction for your enemies. So obviously you can see that's going to be really good if you get in the middle of the fight. Pipe of Insight. This is a very common item on Tidehunter, something that you're going to see a lot with a team that might be centered a little bit more around a push lineup. A push lineup is a lineup that's dedicated to trying to kill these towers and trying to get into this base as quickly as possible. And the reason that it's so important is because it's pretty much needed to get over the tier 3. This hump right here is really hard to get over with a normal team. You need some good items, or you need a good ability to have high ground vision, or make your heroes last a little bit longer on the high ground, because then you start fighting against this tower and things like that. And the Pipe of Insight has an active which gives friendly units in your area, as soon as you turn it on, it gives them a shield that blocks 400 damage. And I'm actually going to go buy the part of this item that I need.
Your middle tower is under attack.
And let's just pop over to and I just want to be able to assemble it as fast as I can. So let's just get over here. We're gonna head over to the secret shop and buy one component, which is in this hood. So now we've got this pipe.
A good path.
Yes, and it's only magical damage. That is correct. It's not physical damage. So let's go up here, and you'll see. I'm going to tell you when I'm going to activate it, and you'll be able to see the barrier.
On the hunt.
Ready? So I'm going to activate it now. See? This is the barrier. It's 400 spell damage.
I surge.
Okay? So that's that item right there. This guy, Refresher Orb, is an item which you're only going to get in the very late game with Tidehunter, but it resets the cooldowns on all of your items and abilities. So you buy it, you use it, and it resets everything. So let's say you just use Ravage. If you then activate a Refresher Orb, it's going to reset those cooldowns and let you use Ravage again. Now you can see the strength of this pretty easily. It's extremely strong. Also gives you HP regen and mana regen, a little bit of damage, as well as intelligence. But the big thing is the active. It resets your cooldowns. This item right here is Drum of Endurance. This is one of the best items in the game, in my opinion. It's extremely cheap. It has low-cost components. And it gives you plus 9 damage, plus 9 to all of your attributes. And it also has an active which gives you plus 10 bonus attack and plus 10 movement speed for, it's not very long. It's like 10 seconds or something around there. So basically you use it and it makes you go a little bit faster. But the big thing is it's so affordable for the amount of attributes you get. Look at the price of an ultimate orb. Where is that? I'm blind. I'm just going to search for it. An ultimate orb is 2100, and that only gives plus 10. This is 1725, and it gives plus 9. Yep, and Refresh Orb does require a ton of mana, 375 to activate. So like I said, it's for the extreme late game. The last item on Tidehunter that I actually just added in, we're not even going to talk about it. You almost never get it on him, but we will be talking about it on a different hero. So let's hop into our next hero really quick, and it's going to be Skeleton King. And while this game is loading, I do want to show you guys my amazing shirt, which I'm wearing currently. Look at that. Oh, it's Ursa. Oh my god. Is that the best shirt you've ever seen or what? It's pretty great. I'm a big fan. And I'm going to switch over to the in-game, just so I don't forget. And Skeleton King. There he is.
Comes now the King of Bones.
So let's give myself some gold. And most of these items we've already talked about. Actually, a lot of these are new. So let's dive straight into it. We've already talked about Skeleton King at length. Helm of Iron Will. This gives you +5 armor and +3 HP regeneration. It's also a component of the armlet, which we're going to talk about next. But basically, Skeleton King is a carry whose goal is to get right next to someone and then hit them so hard that they cry forever. He has lifesteal built in, which it's a pretty significant amount of lifesteal, as well as critical strikes. So both of these stack pretty well and lets him just stand next to someone and hit them forever. In the really late game, you never really want to get in a right-click battle with Skeleton King unless you have the right items to deal with him. So that just encourages the beginning of that. +5 armor, +3 HP regeneration, and then that builds right here into the Armlet of Morganon, and that's a long name, but really it's just called the Armlet. Now the active gives you, let's just buy this so you know what's going on. The item gives you +31 damage when you activate it. That's by clicking on it. It's a toggle. But then it drains 37 HP per second. But you can't die. This is very important. You can't die from this health loss. Okay? Also gives you,
the battle begins.
That's the big thing. Attack speed, damage, and then +25 strength when it's active. So it's going to increase your health. So let's turn it on. Look. We have 1043 now. And look how much our attack damage goes up by. Almost doubles. Actually, it does double. So that's extremely important. But you can see I'm getting drained health. But since I'm in the fountain, it's regenerating. But let's step out. See, so now I'm taking damage from this item. And let's just let it drain all the way down, because I want to show you something very important about this item, which is called Armlet Manipulation, which is basically you can use it to give yourself an extra boost of health when you really need it. So remember that this can't kill you, so I'm not waiting. I'm just waiting for it to tick all the way down to 1. All right, so now let's say it's this, and you need to turn this off. You turn it off. Now you've got like 10 health. But if you quickly flash it on, 500, and then you let it go again, and you're down to 20. But let's say you're running away, and so you see someone shooting an ability at you. And you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. So you just flash this on, it hits you, and then you flash it off again, and you'll be fine. You'll have like 4 health, but at least you won't die immediately. Power Treads are a very basic item for a lot of heroes. It just gives you general buffs. It gives you +8 to the selected attribute. And by selected, I mean, yes, you can change this. So right now we're on Strength. So that's going to give me +8 extra Strength. Now +8 extra Intelligence. And now +8 extra Agility. Also gives you attack speed. Pretty basic item. This item right here is called a Desolator. And its passive is that it reduces armor. So it's okay, and the other thing, it's a unique attack modifier. This used to be called an orb effect. Basically what this means is that you can only have one of them because they don't stack. So if I buy a Desolator, I can't buy another orb effect item or another unique attack modifier. A good example of that is, if I can find it, Eye of Scotty. Unique attack modifier. Mjolnir. Unique attack modifier. So you only buy one of these items. Desolator gives you +60 damage. It's made up of 2 mithril hammers and a recipe, as well as the armor reduction. So again, this is another item that contributes to just standing next to someone and hitting them over the head as hard as you can. BKB is going to also assist in this. It gives you 10 strength, which gives you 190 health, +24 damage, And then the biggest thing is it gives you magic resistance. Or magic immunity, not magic resistance. And it's sort of weird, because it's not complete magic immunity. As you can read the description right here, it says some ultimate abilities are able to disable through Black King Bar. This is true. Some abilities like Vengeful Spirit Swap, or maybe Net from Naga Siren. The active of those, the stun, well, they're not the stun, the held in place as well as the swap, both work. With some abilities, like Enigma's Black Hole, it will disable the damage, but not the actually being in the black hole and getting sucked in, which is usually the worst part. But it's really good for just walking up next to someone, so you can activate it. That activates it. Now you walk up next to someone, and you just hit them, and they can't stun you with any normal abilities. AC, Assault Cuirass, we've already talked about that. Abyssal Blade. This is a sweet item. We need to sell some of our stuff so we can go over to the secret shop. And this item gives you an active stun. Let's pop over to the secret shop. I really like this item, so I want to show you what it does.
Death is my shadow.
Yep. Bane also. There's a bunch of examples of that working. You are correct.
This will leave me skinned.
So let's pop over here. And I'm just gonna show you what this does. So the active stuns a target for 2 seconds, and this goes through magic immunity. It tells you right there. And it also has a passive bash. So let's just use this. Well, it's not a good example because I killed him immediately, but it stuns him for 2 seconds. Okay? And it also gives plus 100 damage and plus 10 strength. So this is an item which is, when you're already pretty comfortable that you're not going to die, you get this and it'll give you a lot more damage.
Your middle tower is under
Heart of Taras, we've already talked about. Heaven's Halberd. This is a very interesting item. And basically, it has two main things. The passive is that it has a maim, which means that it gives a chance to slow for 4 seconds. So, like, you attack someone and it maims them, and then they're slowed down for 4 seconds so you can catch up to them, hit them again. The active is a disarm. Disarm means that they can't attack, and it's 4 seconds on ranged heroes and 3 seconds on melee heroes. It also gives you damage as well as strength, and it also gives you 25% evasion in general. Monkey King Bar is a late game item which gives you just straight damage. Plus 88 damage, plus 15 attack speed. It has mini bashes, which are like not a stun, but it will break channels. It's a tiny little stun that does a little bit of extra damage. And the other thing about this is it has True Strike, which means you can't miss no matter what. It goes through evasion, all of that stuff. So it's going to be good against heroes who have built-in evasion, like Brewmaster or like Phantom Assassin, someone like that. And then if you're a ranged hero, it will also help you shoot up this hill and hit the tower from the low ground. Now the last item is Divine Rapier. Now this is a very situational item on this hero. In the super late game, when you have an Aegis and your ultimate up, that means you essentially have 3 lives, you can buy a Divine Rapier. A Divine Rapier gives you plus 300 damage. That's all it does. But if you die, it drops. Yup. So, let's say we're going over here. Let's go say hi to one of these creeps. Let's pop over. Go check out what's up at the tower. I shouldn't have taken lifesteal. But you can see, I just killed a creep in one hit. It's very good. But now let's just stand here next to this tower and die.
I'm under attack. Yes.
Wait and die.
Yes. This bone.
Oh no! Look! Ooh, the rapier's on the ground. And this is what happens. And now at this point, your enemy can pick it up. So this item, if you lose it, can lose you the entire game. But in the very late game, occasionally it's the only thing you can buy to break through your enemy's front and win the game. So that's the end of Skeleton King, and yes, that is one fat Skeleton King. Let's pop out of this one real quick. And the next one is going to be Dragon Knight. We're actually going to skip Lycanthrope because this is taking far longer than I thought. And just keep in mind that most of Lycanthrope's items are the same exact ones as for Skeleton King, minus the Rapier, just because his job is about the same. The only additional one is a Necromonicon. And we will pop into that and I'll show you what it does right after we get in here. So Necromonicon is an item which spawns two things. It spawns a little range creep. Almost forgot to get in here. It spawns a ranged creep as well as a melee creep, but they're special. They're Necro Warriors. And their strength and their abilities get stronger when you upgrade Necromonicon. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing right, and I'm sure someone's going to flame me for it, but I'm okay with it. That's what I like to call it. And you can upgrade it to 3 levels. And it's made up of a Staff of Wizardry, a Belt of Strength, and a very expensive recipe. It's $12.50. And then to upgrade it, you just buy the recipe again with the other one, and it will upgrade to level 2. And then when you get to level 3, these guys have True Sight. Let's buy this item so we can go through all the different levels, because each level does something a little bit different. So let's go back and buy level 1. And let's turn on WTF mode so there's no cooldown. So now we look at these guys. They have a Mana Break, and then Last Will. This ability makes it very good. Necronomicon. Nom nom nom. That's good. That's good. And that means that it will do 400 pure damage to the unit that kills it. So if you get this item really early, that's like almost half their life usually. Really strong. The range creep has targeted mana burn as well as an attack speed and movement aura. Okay, now let's upgrade this bad boy to number 2. Let's spawn him again. You see the Last Will damage is higher. The mana burn damage is higher. And one more. Whoops. One more.
Just what I've been waiting for.
I didn't know that this could happen. So here's our level 3 one. You can see it has higher damage. But here's the most important part of Necromonicon 3. True Sight. Ability, passive. Reveals invisible units. This item will give you vision on invis units, like Ricky Mario, like Bounty Hunter, things like that. So it makes it extremely strong against those heroes if you coupled with a push lineup. That's why you get it with Lycanthrope, as he is a strong pusher. Alright, now let's go into our Dragon Knight items. We'll send these guys out to be all by themselves. We've already talked about these. Now let's talk about Helm of the Dominator. The active is that it dominates a non-hero, non-ancient target unit. So basically, usually you're going to grab a creep from somewhere in the jungle over here. And you can use that to stack different camps, like the ancient camp, like these camps, whatever camps you want, really. The passive, it gives you a 15% lifesteal, and this is a unique attack modifier. 15% lifesteal, you can see how that's strong, as it lets you sit there and take on units. Now this is a little bit of a controversial item on Dragon Knight, because a lot of people don't really like it and don't like the item it turns into, which is eventually Satanic. However, in a pub, I think this is one of the most fun items you can ever get, because it lets you 1v5 their team once you get a Satanic. And the reason that's because it has 25% lifesteal once you get a Satanic, and then you turn, once you get your level 3 ultimate here, the Red Dragon, or just past anything past the Red Dragon, that's your level 2 ultimate, you get splash damage. So that means you're going to be getting a ton more lifesteal, and then you turn on your Satanic here, and it gives you an outlandish amount of lifesteal, 175% for 3 seconds. So this basically means that you can 1v5 their entire team. It's really awesome. It's really fun, and he's a great hero in the late game. Abyssal Blade, we already talked about that. BKB, we already talked about that. You just want to get right up next to a hero and attack them if they have a lot of magics, which you're like, man, I could kill them if I could just stand next to them. Well, voila, that is why we have BKB, the Black King Bar. Soul Cuirass, same sort of thing. Already talked about that. Heaven's Halberd, already talked about that. And this is the only new one for the Dragon Knight. It's going to be Daedalus. Daedalus has a passive, which is a critical strike damage, 250%, as well as just giving you damage in general. So you can see how that goes well with this lifesteal. So if you catch a crit while Satanic is on, you're almost, no matter what, you're going to get all of your life back, because you'll crit for like, I don't know, maybe 400 at least. And then 175% of that is like 6 whatever. But in the later parts, you're going to be attacking for probably around 200 or 300 when you're actually going to be able to afford this item. So the crit is really large, and then the lifesteal on top of that is really large, and in like 1 or 2 hits you can get all of your life back, especially with those dragons. The last item here is Sanj and Yasha. Now this is an item that I don't love, honestly. Don't love it. It has 2 components. Yasha, which gives you 10% movement speed, attack speed, and agility. And Sanj, which goes into that Heaven's Halberd, that gives you a lesser maim. That's the slow for 4 seconds. And when you combine them, you get Sanj and Yasha. Now this gives you that movement speed as well as that maim. So basically, it's an item almost exclusively dedicated for chasing. That being said, I don't love it. I don't recommend it for Dragon Knight, really. At all. I just don't like it. I don't think it's very good. Now, one item which is not on this list, which I might consider adding, is a Soul Ring. Let's go search up Soul Ring. Let's add it into this early game build. I like this item a lot. And the Soul Ring has extra HP regen, extra mana regen, as well as an active which consumes 150 HP to temporarily give you 150 mana.
Your top tower.
And we don't have a black screen, right? Okay, good. No black screen for us. And basically, the reason that this is such a good item is it lets you spam out your Breathe Fire. And with Breathe Fire, it gives you a lot of lane control. Because of the damage, it lets you take down some creeps as well as harassing the enemy. So I really think it's a really, really, really good item on Dragon Knight. Alright, now let's pop into our last hero of the day. A little bit different. It's going to be the Venomancer, and he's got some different items than anything we've really looked at so far. Let's pop up those real quick. And again, guys, all of these videos are going to be on my YouTube, which you can see right there. And also invite your friends, because we want to get this into a nice big live stream. So let's go ahead and pick the Venomancer. It's all the way at the end. So we've got Venomancer. Now, Venomancer is one of those pushing supports, as well as a good counter pusher because of these wards. And let's go ahead into his recommended items. This is a Ring of Aquila. This item is made up of a Wraith Band and a Ring of Basilius combined. And with them, it has a toggleable ability which gives you a bunch of stuff in an aura. Mana regen and armor are the important stuff. Actually, I think that's the only aura. And you can toggle it whether it's on or off. Now when it's on, that means that your creeps are going to push forward into the lane more by themselves. When it's off, it means it will stay there and you're the only one that gets that. Also gives you damage, attributes, agility, and armor. It's just a good item in general. The big thing is the mana regen for this guy. Treads we've already talked about. Aghanim's Scepter. This item does a lot of different stuff on a lot of different heroes. On each hero, it upgrades the ultimate. That's the simplest way of saying it. It makes it better as well as giving it attributes, health, and mana. So in this case, it decreases the cooldown of Poison Nova, it increases the duration, and increases the damage. So it makes it very strong for team fights. And now you can see what Valve is thinking when they make this build. Your core items, your agnums. Then we look over here. We've got two extremely strong initiating items for this guy. We have the Blink Dagger, which we've already talked about, and the Shadow Blade, which gives you Shadow Walk and makes you invisible until you attack or cast a spell. You move faster when you use this, and when you attack if you attack to break the invisibility, you get extra damage. So turning it on, you just instantly turn invisible. And then you can see this would be strong, because now you can just walk in the middle of the enemies. And so let's do this one more time. So you use your Shadow Blade, you walk in the middle of the enemy camp, and you use your Nova. You use your Gale, put a ward down, whatever. Makes him extremely strong in those team fights. Blink Dagger, you can see how that works sort of in the same way, just lets you get right in the middle of that fight. Yule's Scepter is an item which has a couple different important abilities. And again, we're going to have to go out to the secret shop to see it. Let's go out there. But the active it has is it has a Cyclone, which throws a unit up in the air for 2.5 seconds, makes them completely invulnerable, so you can use it for yourself to live a little bit longer. And then it also gives intelligence and mana regen. So now we're going to make our way over to this middle lane. And you can't use it on allies. So you can use it on yourself. So if you need to live a little bit longer, you can. But you just saw it, and now we just have to wait a tiny bit.
Violet Vance.
Move past here. I'm just gonna wait for some creeps. Da-da-da.
Yes.
8 seconds left on the cooldown. Let's pull this guy over here. And ready? I'm gonna throw him up in the air for 2 seconds. So you click the item. I use my hotkey, and then you click him. And then he's up in the air for 2.5 seconds. This is often a way to get a good setup on a hero. It's also a way to guarantee latches in the early game for like Ancient Apparition and things like that. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Mostly for him, you're going to be using it to get someone in position or try to save yourself. Now, these items down here are really for the carry Venomancer, which is not something you're going to see very often in pubs. And if you get these items, someone will probably flame you. This one right here is the Butterfly. It gives you plus 30 agility, plus 30 damage, plus 35 evasion, and plus 30 attack speed. So basically, it just makes your right click more powerful. It makes you run around, sorry, not run around quicker. Makes you attack a little bit quicker, and it also makes it harder for enemies to hit you. Orchid Malevolence is a couple different things, really. It gives you the active is a soul burn, which silences someone for 5 seconds and also amplifies the damage they take by 25% during that 5 seconds, as well as giving you a lot of mana regen, a lot of intelligence, things like that. And then Mana Style is an item which is really, really good, and it makes images of you. See? 2 images of you. So this is good for a couple things, but the cool thing about these images is that they get some of your buffs. Not all of them. But in a lot of cases, they'll get the important ones. And Venomancer is a really fun hero if you can get up these Manta Style and things like that. But now, for the rest of the episode, we are actually going to talk a little bit about warding. And I don't know if this works, but I want to turn off. Hold on. Okay, that doesn't work. But we're going to pop up this sheet right here, which is a warding guide, basically. And I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't think you can. Alright, I'll just keep it like this. So, this is different spots to put all wards all over the map. And there's a couple different kinds of wards, really, that we're going to be talking about for the next couple of minutes here. All of these red ones are what we call rune wards. That basically means we're using them to control what we can see in the river, as well as the runes, which spawn here and here. Okay? Lane wards are all of these blue ones. These give you vision into the lane, obviously. If you're trying to control with some strong ganking, they'll help you a lot because it'll let you find out exactly where someone is. We also have, these can also sort of double as push wards. It sort of depends on the capacity that you're using them in. If you're pushing up on someone, occasionally you'll want more vision. These also sort of function in that. Right here. And there's a couple other wards which are very important. This guy right here, and this guy right here are, some people call them uber wards or cliff wards. But basically they give you huge amounts of vision all right around here. And with that vision, you can almost always, if you're on the Radiant team and you put one over here, you're going to have great vision in the later parts of the game to try to get kills around this area or in the jungle. You can often catch people out by having one of these wards here. These wards right here, this one, this one over here, these are all sort of a way to stop from getting ganked. And what I mean by that is it gives you a pretty good area of vision for when people are going to be attacking you and where they're going to be coming from if they're trying to sneak in and grab you. Now the other kind of wards which are very important in competitive play, a little less in pubs, are the camp D wards. Like, that's not the right way to put it, the pole camp wards. So what this means is we know a little bit about the way creeps spawn in those neutral camps. If you have vision of them or you're standing in them, not if you just have vision, but if you're close enough, if you're standing close enough to them, they won't spawn. And to illustrate that, we've got this little chart right here. Now if you're standing in any of these boxes, these creeps will not spawn. Or if you have an item or like vision in any of these boxes, these creeps will not spawn at those even minute marks. And you'll see down here, there's a little bit of an overlap. And down here, there's a bush that sits right here. It's called the magic bush, basically. And if you put one here, it will block both of these camps. Now, what's the point of that? We talked about, in our laning episode, a little bit about stacking camps and pulling them into lane to pull your creeps back and to maintain creep equilibrium. This right here is a great way to do it. If you're on the dire team and you don't want them to be able to do that, if you put a ward right here, that completely eliminates really their ability to pull anything into lane to pull that back. Now let's pop it in the game and we're going to take a look at a couple of these locations that are a little bit more tricky in real time. So, booting over here. Alright, we are a fast little Venomancer. So, the magic bush is this one. Right here. This is the magic bush. So, let's kill this creep camp really quick.
Venom flows. Venom's vengeance.
Oh my god, I'm stunned. Oh no! I forgot since we're in WTF mode. Oh, I'm stuck here. Okay, now he won't stop anymore. Okay. So I turned off all the cooldowns to make this easier.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be tight. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get it in time. Alright, we're gonna have to wait one more minute. Alright, but now, let's back up. We can see that this ward, A, gives us really great vision of this area. B gives us vision of this camp, which blocks it. And C, it's so close to this camp, it will also block it. So we just have to wait till that even minute mark, or you can just believe me. Let's just say you'll believe me. These creeps will not spawn. Neither will these. Okay? Now let's talk about another pretty common place to put wards. And this is really the recommended place to put them for at least the early game. See this eye right here? You put the eye on the eye. Easy peasy.
Yes.
This gives you great vision. Oh.
Do.
Okay. I'm gonna run over here now.
Agitation.
We're gonna throw one of these up here as well.
Yeah.
And now let's pop over here, and I want to show you what one of these cliffs looks like.
Vile advance.
So there's the cliff ward. Look at how much vision that gives us. It's an outrageous amount. These are really great places to put wards in the middle and late game when you're trying to be more active with your ganks. See? No spawn. Now we're going to pop over here, and I'll prove to you that this has not spawned. And then we're going to talk about something a little bit else.
As you say.
A little bit different. See? No creeps. Alright, so now how do you deal with this? If they ward you really well, especially if they ward this one right here, you're going to have to de-ward. And you have a couple options for de-warding. Sentry wards is one. These give you true sight, because these wards are invisible. These will give you true sight. So if you put it right next to it, bring the courier. Courier will bring those over for us. So if you put a sentry ward right here, and you're on the other team, you'll be able to see it and actually just kill this ward.
My venom flows.
Alright, so you would put it down right here. That would give you vision, and then you would right-click down this ward. And then they would no longer have this creep block right here, or this creep block right here, and you'd be back in business. And sometimes you have to do this. Also, a lot of the time you'll see teams dewarding these central rivers, because these give you a huge amount of vision dedicated around ganking. So you pop it down here, and that gives you the ability to kill both of these. Venomancer is actually a great dewarder because of these wards.
Yeah.
And if you can take down these river visions, you can see how it gives you an opportunity for your gankers to make a bigger impact on the game, because they're not going to get seen. So because if you see someone just running through here, hopefully you'll just back up to your tower and you'll be fine.
With vim and venom.
But thanks for watching. That's pretty much the end of this daily.
Quick as venom.
Daily number 4, the basics of items on new heroes, as well as a very basic guide to warding. We didn't really talk about these ward spots here too much in the game. These are the other ward spots. Here. Another really great one is this guy right here. This gives you some really great vision. Let's pop over here.
A touch of venom.
That one right there gives you some great vision. Lets you see the rune, as well as this whole area. Big fan of that one. But
Your top tower is
that's the basics. So you guys have now furthered your knowledge about the basics of your items for all your different heroes. And now let's make a little GG ward trap here. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'm What Is Hip. You can see more from me over at whatiship.tv. That's my website. Also, follow this stream on here if you want to know when this goes live. Go follow me on YouTube right up there. And this series is going to get a lot more complicated in the next week or so. So basically, this week and the first episode last week were the basics for anyone building a foundation of playing Dota, learning the basics, figuring out what heroes to play, how to play them, what items to get, and things like that. However, soon we're going to be heading into almost an exclusive replay format where we're going to be watching replays of different games, different players playing different heroes, and we're going to analyze a lot of the different strategies going on in Dota. So that'll probably start in about a week, maybe a week and a half. So keep tabs on this. Follow me on Twitter. It's WhatIsHipTV, and you can also see me over at Ghoster Gamers. I am a Ghoster Gamers caster. Decided to start some extra stuff as we are waiting for the Gosu League to kick off again. And if any of you guys are going to be attending the International, please say hi. I'll be there hanging around with people. But if you see me, say hi. I'd love to meet anyone who likes me.
As you say.
And have a good day. Peace.